All right, so welcome to our class today. It's the recording is happening. The class is actually happening live on Easter Monday, and it's a beautiful day. And so I hope if you're those of you who are here live are enjoying the day, and depending on whenever you watch the replay, hopefully you're enjoying your day as well. So spring and Easter, the celebration of Easter is really about the celebration of coming back to life, right? Whether it's in the Christian tradition, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but certainly um, in the natural world, we see it all around us, right? So we don't have to be religious to celebrate the coming back to life that Easter represents, or this time of year represents. And so in the winter time, everything kind of goes dormant. The animals hibernate and the plants go dormant. And then in the spring, we see everything starting to wake up. And we, as human beings, we think that we're separate from nature. We feel like we're separate from nature because we live in these little boxes that are artificially heated and cooled, and we wear clothing to shield us from the environment. But we are actually made up of all of the same stuff as nature. And we have this natural rhythm where we kind of go down in the winter and come back up in the spring in terms of our energy. And that is really, really normal. So um, if you haven't felt the rise of energy yet, don't worry, it will come. But that is sort of the really natural flow. And we even have, these conditions that we talk about in winter, like seasonal affective disorder. And this is normal, right? We all feel a little more down, a little more hibernatey in the winter. So today we're going to, last week we talked about rest. And this is a really important sort of progression, right? Because we can't get energized, we can't get energy if we're not rested. And I know I've been guilty of this in my life, of just wanting to keep on going and not take the time that I need to restore and to rest. And then eventually, what happens if you do that, you get exhausted. And if you keep going, then you get burned out, and your body says to you, no, you will listen, right? So if we can build in these times of rest and rejuvenation into our lives, then we can ideally find that rhythm and flow all, you know, along with the natural world. So we're going to start seated today. So make sure you're comfortable, either on a cushion, maybe a blanket or a chair, whatever, it doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that you're comfortable. So I know for some people sitting on the floor, not so comfortable. So sitting up on a cushion can help, or a chair. So I will see you on the mat. So the main thing about your seated posture is that you're comfortable and that you are upright. So what I mean is that you feel your sit bones, so your pelvis is level, and your sit bones, those two bones that make contact with your chair or cushion or ground, you want to feel those two bones on underneath you, underneath your seat. And you don't want to ideally feel that your weight is on your tailbone or your sacrum. So the spine, it comes down from the base of your skull, comes all the way down, and at your, just below your lower back, it spreads out into this fused area called the sacrum. And then below that is your tailbone. And the tailbone kind of curls under down towards your sit bones. And it's quite easy with just a little bit tilting back of the pelvis. And you can try this, a little bit tilting back with your pelvis, that you feel your weight come onto your sit bone, or sorry, onto the back of your sit bones and onto the tailbone. And then see if you can bring the pelvis more level. So you're tilting the pelvis back up to a level position, and see if you can then feel that your weight is no longer pressing on your tailbone, but is on those two sit bones. Okay. So the reason for that is if we sit back on our tailbone, if we round the back, which is how most of us sit, and to be honest, I often catch myself sitting slumped with my weight on my tailbone. And what that does is it affects your entire spine. So your tailbone kind of jams up your whole spine. And when we're breathing, the spine needs freedom to move. The diaphragm goes up and down, and everything gets kind of, what's the word? It gets kind of cramped up when we slouch down. So that is my long-winded explanation for why we want to sit on the sit bones. So finding that rootedness. And I mentioned that in order to feel energized, in order to feel lifted and expanded, we need to feel also grounded. And we need to feel that first. Otherwise, we end up somewhere in outer space. So we ground first, and then so grounding would be analogous to resting, like going inward, going down, that sort of wintry energy of going into the earth and becoming dormant. So we want to start there, and then we'll find the lift and rebound that comes from that. So you can close your eyes if you like. You can certainly keep them open if that is more comfortable for you. Bring your attention right down to those 2 points, your sit bones, if you can feel them. Sometimes it's a little harder to feel if you're sitting on something soft. So if you can't feel them, you can just imagine. So sitting bones, bringing your awareness there. And if it works for you, you might imagine roots going down from those 2 points, through whatever you're sitting on, through the floor, down into the earth. So we gather energy from the earth through feeling grounded, through feeling supported. When we're supported and grounded, our bodies can relax a little bit more. I think we talked about this last week or the week before. When the roots go down deeply and nourish us, we can then feel a kind of lifting and rebounding effect through the body. So sometimes I like to think about it as the harder you bounce a ball to the ground, the more it's going to lift up. Same idea with our roots. The more the roots go down into the earth, the more we will feel that rebounding effect of lifting and lightness and openness in the upper body. So we get energy from our posture, from being in good posture. The body works in a more refined way. The breath is more accessible. The spine moves with the breath. So there's a little bit of conditioning to the organs as well as the diaphragm moves up and down. So take a moment to tune into your breath. Feel its freedom of movement here as we sit and breathe. If you need to adjust your position, if you want to stretch your legs out or anything at any time, please do. In yoga, we call the energy of life prana. It's sometimes translated as spirit, sometimes as breath. But prana isn't limited to just those things. Prana is also the energy that we bring into our bodies through food, through our thoughts and emotions. So everything that comes in is processed and is available as energy. So maybe you realized and had this sensation of thoughts giving you energy. Right? When you think about something really fun and exciting, you feel more energized. When you think about something sad or annoying, it's less energizing. So we get energy in all kinds of different ways. How we eat, what we eat, who we hang out with. Right? Some people drag our energy down. Some people build our energy up. So all of those things play a role in how energized we feel. And it starts with us, with our bodies, finding ease, finding breath, finding connection with ourselves. Another way that we invite energy into the body is through movement. So we're going to start to bring in some movement now. So starting by lifting the heart, drawing the shoulders back, Breathing in and then exhale. You can round, and now you can let your weight move back. So it comes toward the tailbone as you round the spine. And then you're lifting up to the sit bones again, lifting the heart, arching the back a little, and then rounding, softening, going inward. Inhale, feeling that spring energy of opening and expanding. Exhale, back inward to gather, to rest, and then opening and expanding, breathing that beautiful spring energy in, releasing whatever's holding you back, letting go. And this time, as you're lifting the spine, let's also lift the arms, coming up into this big open position, and let the arms come around to the thighs and knees as you round, and then lifting up, big breath in and circling around. Right, and then this time as the hands come down, keeping the spine upright, and we'll come forward, so a long spine, so we're not arching so much, just bring the whole spine forward, and then leaning back enough to feel your abdominal muscles engage, and then coming forward, and going back. Great. And then let's make a little circle. So coming to sit on both sit bones, rock your weight to one side and then come around to rock to the other side. Come toward the back of your sit bones, to the front of your sit bones. So really tune into those two bones as long as you can feel them. If not, then just really tune into the movement, the rhythm. Bring some sensory awareness to the earth and our connection to it through the sit bones. Circle the other way if you haven't switched directions yet. Beautiful. Well, let's come back to the center. And if you're sitting on something, for instance, a chair or a cushion or a blanket, I'm going to invite you to remove that now. Come right to the floor. Just move that aside and come down so that your weight is on your 2 feet, your 2 hands behind you, and your 2 sit bones. And you can sit up a little bit, so use your hands to support you so that you're not slumping here. So you still feel those 2 bones. You'll be more on the back of them now as you start to move the knees side to side. So going one way and the other. Your body will crawl forward as you do this. You can periodically push back or walk your hands forward to stay with your body. So take your time, notice. I've been doing a lot of horseback riding and whitewater paddling in the last few weeks, so I can feel a lot of stiffness in my hips, and notice what's true for you and really honor. It's not going too far. Not pushing into pain, right? That saps our energy when we force our bodies and create tension, really taking up our energy. Let's come back to the center now. You can bring your knees and feet in, and we're going to open the knees to the sides, soles of the feet coming together. You can keep leaning back on your hands a little bit, and that's going to keep the stretch hopefully at a manageable level. It's not too much. And then very gently, we're going to lift the knees towards sort of about halfway up and down. So halfway up may be a different position for you than it is for me, and that's fine. So we're moving out of the stretch, so we're actually engaging the muscles of the inner thighs and then stretching them out. And in this way, we work to warm the muscles up and stretch them at the same time. Right. So now, letting the knees relax to the sides. If it's uncomfortable for you, you might put some blocks or blankets or cushions under your knees so that you can be supported and feel comfortable. And then walk your hands forward towards your hips. See if you can find your sit bones again. So you're no longer rounding back. It will increase the stretch. So you may not be able to come off your tailbone here without engaging a little too much stretch. If it's comfortable, you can also bring your hands forward to hold your ankles and use that hold as a bit of leverage to keep your spine long and your sit bones anchored. And we'll take a few breaths here. Right, and then you can rock back, so your weight goes back, you're rounding your back, bring your arms around your knees, let your head come down toward your knees, and we'll take a few breaths here. So today we'll work a little bit on energizing the core. And so if you're new to this work or you haven't done it for a while, you're feeling a little weak, take breaks as you need them. So don't wait for me to tell you to take a break. When you feel like you're struggling and creating tension, you're going to stop whatever you're doing, take a break, take a rest. So remember I said, we get energized when we allow our bodies the rest we need. We don't get energized by forcing, pushing, or creating tension in the body. That actually creates exhaustion. So I'm going to show you from the side, and you can stay where you are. But you want to be up on your sit bones, and you can use your hands to support you. Bring your knees together and squeeze. And you'll probably already feel, just from this position, that your hip flexors and your core and hips are working a little bit. And then keep your weight upright. Bring your hands underneath your thighs, just above your knees. And you lift your toes off the ground. Keep your knees close together. So I'm not slumping back. That's really important here. I'm sitting up tall. And if this is enough for you, this sit, just as it is, may be plenty of effort for you, right? And if it's too much, go back to hands behind you. And then we're going to keep moving forward from here. So knees together, lift one leg, about parallel to the ground. So the lower leg, feel how that brings in a little more effort in the hip, and then bring it down. And then other side, lift it up. Again, those hip flexors working a little bit here and bring it down. If it's possible for you, you can lift both feet off the ground and find a bit of balance on your sit bones. And then if you like, you can bring both feet up and pause here, maybe breathe. Please breathe, not maybe breathe. Good, and release. Let's stretch the legs out, give them a shake. Then rest again on your hands behind you, bring the feet to the floor a little wider than your hips, maybe shoulder width. And again, a little side to side movement to release the hips. Right. So again, let's come up onto the sit bones. Bring your hands behind your thighs, knees close together. Again, if this is enough for you, stay here. If you need to support yourself with your hands, go ahead. And if it's possible, you can raise your toes, maybe raise your heels. So I'm rocking back a little bit, but I'm not rounding my back. Right? So I'm still on my sit bones, lifting the feet, maybe taking them a little higher. And if it's available to you, you could take your hands away from your legs, squeeze your knees together, and breathe. Remember, it is not useful to overdo it. Okay? So listen to your body, honor your body. Go ahead and come down, stretch your legs out, give them a little shake. So we're going to come right to lie down now to release some of that holding in the hips, some of that effort in the hips. So you can come on down. And just take a moment to breathe here. So again, finding that rest in order to rejuvenate. So resting here for a moment. And then let's bring one knee in toward the chest. So we're deeply flexing at that hip. And then we're going to extend that leg while we take the arms overhead. So that leg is going to extend along the ground. arms reach up, big breath in. And then as you exhale, knee to chest, hands to your knees, squeezing in. So inhale, if you're coordinating breath, that's always optional. Just breathe normally otherwise. Reaching out as you inhale, in as you exhale. Great, and now with that leg stretched out, arms overhead, pause there for a moment. And we're going to bring the opposite knee in now. So the knee that was bent, you're going to bring that in toward your chest. Give it a squeeze as you press out through the opposite foot. Press down into that heel, reach out through the heel, and pause here. Okay, and then let's release the foot from the chest to the floor. We'll bend the other knee, so both feet are flat on the floor again. Okay, and then whichever leg was bending and straightening, we're going to use the opposite leg, so the one that was just into your chest will come back into the chest, giving a squeeze in, and then arms overhead, legs stretching out. You can breathe in here, breathe out as the knee comes in, if that's, again, comfortable for you to coordinate the breath in that way. Otherwise, just breathe normally. And then next time you're stretching that leg straight out on the ground, you can leave it there. Press down into the heel, toes toward the ceiling. And again, then you can bring the other knee in, bring your hands around that knee, give a little squeeze. Again, if it's more comfortable, hold behind the thigh, over the shin if available to you. And tuning into your knee, making sure you're comfortable. Press down into that heel of the long leg. Pause here for a couple of breaths. Okay, and then releasing that foot to the floor. Bending the other leg so that both feet are on the floor. And then lining up your heels more or less underneath your knees, about hip distance apart, preparing to work with the bridge pose. So the bridge pose, again, opens this angle of the hips that we were working to contract in the seated position. So getting a little more space there. So you can start with the arms just relaxed on the ground. Let's start by pressing into your feet. Your tailbone will naturally start to lift, and then you can slowly lift the hips up. Think about the knees going away from the shoulders and the hip flexors, this area where the hips meet or where the pelvis meets the thighs, and that area is opening, and then that area is going to gently contract, or the angle will close as you come down. So again, opening that angle as you lift, knees moving away from shoulders, and then gently closing that angle as you lower. A few more breaths here, lifting and lowering any amount. So any amount is fine, as long as you're comfortable. And if you like, you can stay for a few breaths. If you want to go into a deeper version of this posture, you can bring the arms in close to your body and rock a little side to side as you wiggle your shoulder blades in towards each other. The hands can just rest palms up on the ground, or if it's available to you and comfortable, you can interlace your fingers underneath you and use that foundation to help create space across the chest, the belly, the hips, the thighs. And if another version of this posture is better for you, then follow that instinct. Try to keep your knees over your heels so they're not splaying out to the sides, almost as if you were trying to squeeze a small beach ball between your knees or block. And then when you're ready to come out, if you brought your hands together, you're going to wiggle your shoulders apart, releasing your hands, lowering your hips to the ground, and then knees to chest. You can bring your hands around your knees and maybe rock side to side. So releasing now whatever effort we've put into the lower back and hips, lifting and lowering in bridge. You can bring your hands to your knees and maybe circle the knees around to circle around the sacrum now. So when we're sitting, we don't want to feel the weight on the sacrum or the tailbone, like the back and the hips. But when we're lying down, of course, that's where we feel it, and we can massage around that area. So these big muscles of the butt that attach around the sacrum can get quite tight, and often it's tighter on one side or the other, so the hips will actually shift, and sometimes sciatic pain as a result. So getting some movement around the sacrum. The sacrum itself doesn't move much. I mean, there's a joint there between the sacrum and the ilium, the SI joint. There's not a lot of movement there, but there can be. Sometimes it kind of gets out of place. So this can just help to massage and release those tight muscles around the sacrum. You might bring the knees a little closer, massaging as you rock side to side. You'll feel that the weight shifts more into the lower back, and always check in with your own body. So I have enough padding on the back of my body that none of this is uncomfortable for me. But I know students who don't have as much padding, and as they roll around, the bones are feeling crunched into the ground. So extra blankets under you if you need, or obviously skip anything that doesn't feel good to you. So let's come back to a resting position. Hands on the body to feel the breath, knees bent, and that just really helps to relax the lower back. And we'll take a few breaths here, just letting the body settle, coming back to that resting place to feed our body through breath, through relaxation, through focus on the mind, softening where we can. And then from this place, we're going to roll over onto the side, onto one side. Use your opposite hand against the ground to lift you upright. So we'll come right over onto all fours. We're going to keep working around the core and the hips today. So moving into the cat-cow now. So inhale as you arch. Exhale as you round. Just as a reminder, if you need a break for your wrist at any time, please just come to child's pose, do some wrist circles, whatever you need. And if you like child's pose, instead of just rounding into cat pose, you can move back to child's pose with your exhale, back to all fours with your inhale. Find child's pose is a nice little more stretch for the lower back area. See how it feels. Your knees and your ankles have to be on board, right? Because it can be a little bit challenging to flex the knees and the ankles into this position for some. And now let's come back to all fours. Tuck the toes under. Press into the fingertips, the heels of your hand. Get ready for downward dog. You're going to lift the knees up. Let the head come between your arms. Keep your knees a little bit bent and try to find length from your hands right through your arms to your hips. And then maybe walk one heel down and the other, giving the calves a little bit of a stretch here. Remember, you can always come out of downward dog anytime your body says enough, especially if there's a lot of pressure on your wrists. Honor that. Okay, and then we'll make our way back to all fours. I'm going to invite you, if it's comfortable for you, to take your knees apart here. So there's some space. The toes can stay close together, bringing the hips back toward the heels and letting the chest and belly relax toward the ground. The hands can be under the head, or the head can be right on the ground if you like. So if this is not comfortable for you, find a version of child's pose that you can do, or you could be a little higher up. on your elbows if you like. We'll stay here for a few breaths, so it's important that you're comfortable tuning in and breathing here. And then let's come back up to all fours. Bring the knees back in. And I'm going to just shift back a little bit so I've got a little bit of space in front of me because we're going to come down onto our bellies momentarily. I'm going to start by taking the hands forward. So about where your fingertips were, you want the heels of your hands. So basically a hand print forward or so that when you bring your body forward, so your hips, shoulders, and knees are in a line, you want to feel that your wrists are lined up underneath your shoulders. If you're too far forward, it'll be hard to keep your weight, it'll be hard to stay on your hand. And if they're too far back, you're going to find that it puts a lot of pressure on your wrists. So you can play around, find what's comfortable for you. And then once you're there, you're going to press into your hands, go strong through your arms and shoulders. Draw slightly up with your core so you're engaged. And then try to come down in one piece. You'll bend your elbows and come down like a push-up. So when you get to the ground, just bring your hands forward so your elbows are on the ground. Hands are on the ground beside your face, and that's just really to take the pressure off your wrists. You can do Cobra with your hands back where they were. I find once I've been on my wrist for a while, I need a little break, so I bring them forward. So you can do the same if you like. Forehead down. And let's just take a moment to breathe here. Great. And then with your hands on the ground, you're going to pull back a little bit towards your hips. So it's almost like you're tractioning your spine, going back towards your hips, pressing your hips down to anchor them. You're feeling that little bit of traction in your spine. So legs are active. Engage your thighs, engage your buttocks, press down into the earth. And then slowly feel your body start to emerge into Cobra. So you'll lift the forehead, the nose, the chin, the chest, coming up slowly, slowly, going back with the arms rather than down, so the chest comes forward. Come up any amount, but keeping nice and easeful, and then keep that bit of traction as you lower back down, forehead comes down. You relax here for a moment, let your heels fall away, toes turn in. You can even bring your hands up and let your head rest on your hands or to one side. And really let this area around the hips and the sacrum, the buttocks, release and relax. And turning the toes in and the heels out will make some space across the sacrum. So see if you can send your breath down into your lower back, down into your sacral area. So we'll take a moment just to tune into the breath here. Great. And then let's bring the hands back in, elbows on the ground, close to your sides, the arms tucked right in, hands on either side of your face. You're going to bring the tops of the feet back to the ground. If your feet cramp up, you can tuck your toes under and practice this in that way instead. So again, we're going to gently engage the buttocks, the hips, the thighs, press down into the earth, pull back toward your hips with your arms on the ground, feel your spine, get a little bit of traction here, and then start to emerge from the earth, forehead, nose, chin, keep pulling back as the chest comes forward, lifting. Pause here, maybe take a breath, and then slowly lower down, pulling back with your arms. And let's do that a few times now. So lifting. Let your breath and the effort of your core, your back muscles lift you. You're not pushing with your arms, you're pulling with your arms to get that length and traction. You're engaged through the lower body, staying anchored down. All right, and this time when you come into Cobra, if you like, you can stay for a few breaths. Remember, no pressure on the arms down. It's all pressure back to draw the chest forward. You're looking slightly down, so the back of the neck is long. And then slowly releasing lower. Again, you can move your hands and support your head if you like. Bend your knees. Relax your hips, your buttocks, your thighs, and let the feet go side to side, softening and giving a little movement to the lower back. And then let's come back. So stretch the legs out. Bring your arms back into that same position with the elbows tucked into your side. We're going to switch it up a little bit this time. So again, gently engage your lower body, press down. We'll tuck the toes under, so the toes and the hips are pressing down, and then lifting up into Cobra. Draw the elbows underneath your shoulders. Good. Now from here, knees down, lift your belly up and lower down. So you're going to use your core, lift the belly, lower down. Lift the belly, lower down. So we're going to stay this time. So lift the belly, stay, and if you want more, lift the knees and stay. Breathe. When you're ready, lower back down. And come down for a moment to rest again. So head can turn to the side or be on your hands, whatever's comfortable. If you like, you can bend your knees and take your feet side to side. Again, releasing the lower back. Okay, and we're going to try that plank again. So again, remember, effort is great. Tension and over-efforting create exhaustion. So hands to your side, head down, engage your lower body, press down into your hips, squeeze through your thighs. If you know you're going to stay on your knees, you can leave your toes flat. If you know you're going to lift up, you can tuck your toes under. We'll lift into Cobra and slide the elbows underneath shoulders, hands spread and firm on the ground. So again, exhale, lift the belly, coming onto the knees, and inhale to release. Exhale, lift, inhale, release. Exhale, lift, inhale, release. And again, now we're going to have the option to hold. If you've had enough, just rest, okay? And if you want to come back into that challenging plank, lift the belly onto the knees, or lift the belly and come onto your knees, and then maybe lift the knees to come onto your feet, and breathe. When you're ready, lower down, release, bring the hands back, and we're going to walk the hands right back to the lower rib cage, press into the ground, come up to all fours, and again, cat-cow. So stretch the belly with the inhale, round the back with your exhale. If you want to add child's pose to your exhale, feel perfectly free to do that. Inhaling back up to all fours and arching, exhale, rounding and moving back. And then coming back to all fours, we're going to work a little bit with lunge pose today. So you can get there from downward dog if you're able. You can use blocks under your hands if that helps. You could also just come forward with one leg from this position. So just to give you a warning where we're going, when you're ready, if you want to come from downward dog, you can come back into downward dog. You can also just come into downward dog and then lower your knees again to travel into lunge in a moment. So we're just walking on the spot for a moment in downward dog. And then when you're ready, if you're in downward dog and you're stepping forward from there, you might raise the leg first and then come up onto the toes of the other foot. As you exhale, you're drawing that leg forward and you can kind of spring it as best you can between your hands. And then let's lower the back knee. So if you feel really tight here, I'm going to invite you just to come in and out of lunge a few times to ease into it. If you feel comfortable here, you can just stay in lunge, either maybe on your fingertips or fists, or if you have them, and mine are on the other side of the room right now, the blocks, you can lift up onto blocks. And so when you come into lunge and you're staying here, think about that same kind of traction that we used on our arms on the ground. We're going to pull back with the front heel towards the back knee and pull forward with the front knee towards, or sorry, with the back knee. So it's like we're pulling the legs in towards each other without actually moving. So you'll feel engaged through the hips, through the groins. And then if you want more, keeping that engagement, tuck the back toes under, lift your back knee, and keep drawing in towards the center. If you still want more, bring your hands up onto your front knee. Breathing here. And then from here, whatever leg is forward, keep that hand on the knee. If you want more, if you don't, just come on down anytime. We're going to lift the arm of the same leg that's back. So my right arm and right leg are extended. And I'm imagining a long line from that heel, this sort of semicircle, up and back through the arm. Breathing. Good. When you're ready, if you're still in the pose, come on down. You can make your way back to downward dog. We'll come to all fours and either moving all fours to child's pose or cat-cow, or it could be alternating from child's pose, back to all fours, back to downward dog. So really just a little bit of movement here to make sure we're not bringing any tension in with the lunge. Lunge can be quite challenging. So in between sides, it's nice to take a little break and to soften. And then when you're ready, we'll come into lunge on the other side. So from however you want to get there, from kneeling or downward dog, you can raise the leg if you like. That can help with a bit of momentum. Swinging through and a little hop to get your foot as far forward as possible. And then we'll lower the back knee. So again, as if we're pulling back with the front heel, forward with the back knee, you'll feel the engagement, the effort here. So effort is fine. Tension we want to avoid. By gritting the teeth to be in a pose is counterproductive. If you like, you can tuck your back toes under, lift the back knee. And again, find that feeling of engagement, drawing back with the whole front leg now, forward with the full back leg. If you like, hands to the knee. If your body likes, you may want to, and your body says no, so listen. And if you still want more, whatever leg is back, that same arm will lift and lengthen. So this is stretching out the core, stretching out the hip flexors, the front of the hip. Finding your spring energy. Staying another few breaths if you're still with me. And then when you're ready, bringing the hand down, step back to downward dog. You can walk on the spot here. Now let's walk the feet forward toward the hands. See how far you can get. If you get stuck, just walk your hands back to your feet. Bend your knees when you get there. Let the head release down. The arms can hang, or you can hold the elbows or elbows up onto your thighs if you like. Now let's bring the hands to the knees. Soften your knees. Lift your tail. Lift your head in an arched position. Then exhale. Bring your chest down toward your thighs. Your head released. And then we'll come all the way up, reaching overhead and releasing. Wonderful. So coming to stand in Tadasana. So Tadasana or mountain pose is a rest or can be a resting pose. So you're going to find the least amount of effort to be here. Let your weight sink a little into your heels, let your shoulders release. Feel your roots that start at your sit bones now, go down your legs to your heels and down into the earth from there. And then see, as you let those roots go down, see if you can feel this rebounding action of lifting, of opening, of expanding. Take this rest to let your energy settle again after the challenge of the lunge. If it was challenging for you, it's a little challenging for me, I have to admit. Right, and then we're going to work a little bit with the breath. So the inhalation typically is the phase of the breath that brings us energy. Right? We're drawing in oxygen, we're sending it into our body through our blood. And then the exhale is where we let go, we soften, we drop down and relax. So this breath, I think we did this a few weeks ago, but it is a focus on the inhale. And we'll work with just the breath first, and then we're going to add some movements to it. So it's called Krama breath. Sometimes it's called, this particular way of doing it is called breath of joy. But the basic instruction is that you're going to breathe in 3 stages. So you breathe in a little bit, pause, breathe in a little bit more, pause, breathe in a little bit more. By this time you're full of breath, you'll exhale all in one go. So you want to time it so that you're not taking too much breath. So you've got roughly 3 equal parts to breathe into, and then the exhale is all in one go. So I'll show you with my hands as we do it. You don't have to do these hand movements. So you inhale 1/3, pause, inhale 1/3, pause, inhale 1/3, pause, and exhale. So breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, exhale. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, exhale. And so that's the basic breath, quite simple. And the arm movements now will be to the center as you breathe the first 1/3, to the side as you breathe the second 1/3, overhead as you breathe the third third, and then arms down. So we'll do that a couple of times, and then after that, I'll cue you and we'll add a forward bend to the exhale, okay? So first of all, inhale 1, 2 to the sides, 3 overhead, exhale, lower your arms. So 1 to the middle, 2 to the sides, 3 overhead, and exhale. One more time like that. And then we'll add a forward bend. So the beginning is the same. Inhale 1, 2 to the sides, 3 overhead, but this time exhale and release forward. And then 1 coming up to the front, to the sides, overhead, and exhale. Again, center, sides, overhead, exhale. Center, sides, overhead. This time we'll stay forward. So again, you could have your elbows on your thighs. You could hold your elbows or dangle your arms. Try to relax your head as long as it's comfortable for you. If you feel a lot of pressure in your head or you happen to have high blood pressure, keep your head above your heart by keeping your elbows on your thighs. A few more breaths here. Great. So we're going to make our way down into a squat and from there to sit. And sometimes people end up kind of rolling backwards with this. So if you're worried about that, just make sure there's nothing that can hurt you behind you. So I'm going to turn sideways so I don't roll into my brick hearth here. You can bring your hands down. If you need to come onto your toes, that's fine. And then from here, if you can bring your heels down, I have to take my knees apart and see if you can come to sit. You can use your hands, you can do whatever you need to get down. That's just a little variation for fun, but please stay safe at home. It's one of those, try it at home, but with some cautions. And then from here, we're gonna lie back. So you wanna engage your core and move back slowly. Keep your spine long, neck relaxed. Roll back as you get down. You bend your knees, bring your hands onto your belly. If you need to pick up your hips and shift them to be comfortable, do that. And you can let your knees fall together. We'll take a short rest here. So letting your body settle, feeling the effort of the work that we did standing and letting go of any tension that you may have accumulated. Soften your breath. Let everything settle. The hard part or the more challenging parts of the class are over now. We'll start to wind things down. So we'll start by taking the arms to the side, and you can bring the feet in so they're about hip distance apart or a little closer if you like. And we'll work with a gentle twist, starting with just a little rocking side to side. Just feeling your weight rock over your sacrum again. And then if you want a little bit more, letting the knees go down to one side, you can turn your head the opposite way if you like, with full spinal twist. Don't worry about your breath here. Just move slowly with lots of focus, lots of attention, rocking across the sacrum, and then letting the knees come down the other way. Maybe head turns away. If you like, you can take a breath each time you come to the side and then back to center. And to the other side, maybe pausing to take a breath, maybe just continuing and linking the movements. Again, as long as you're breathing, it's all good. Don't worry about necessarily breathing in any particular way so that you can really go slowly into it. Eventually, you'll make your way back to the center. If you feel a little bit off kilter with your hips, you can lift them up and bring your hips back down, and then bring your knees to your chest. So here, we'll start by moving the knees away and towards the body. If you want to coordinate your breathing, Inhale, knees away. Exhale, knees in. And then you can stay with this if you like, or if you want a little bit more, you can extend the legs toward the ceiling, arms either out to the sides or overhead, and then back into your chest. So here you would inhale as you expand and extend open. Exhale as you bring the knees back into your body. All right, bring the knees in. Let's keep one knee in, release the opposite leg. And we'll pass that knee toward the chest from one hand over to the other. You can add a little bit of twist as you rock side to side if you like. So knee out towards the side, opening the inner thighs, and then across the body. Any amount that feels good to you. And then we'll come back to the center and switch legs. So bring the other knee in, stretching the opposite leg out now. And again, passing the knee into the hand on one side, coming across, maybe adding a twist. Whatever feels good to your body as we wind down, releasing the hips after some challenging postures perhaps today, maybe more challenging for some than others. Okay. And then coming back to the center, you can bring that foot to the ground, bring the other foot down. Shift your hips back to center. Again, we'll lift the hips up into a nice, easy bridge, opening up the front of the body just a little bit here, and then releasing down, bringing the spine down. So it's nice and long on the ground. And then we'll bring the knees one more time to the chest. And this time, stretching the legs toward the ceiling. You can either hold behind the thighs or just let your hands relax. Separate your feet a little bit as you circle your ankles around. Circle one way, circle the other way. Relax your ankles, shake out your legs. You can reach the arms up and give them a shake as well. Just waking up your limbs. And then knees come into your chest. Give yourself a little squeeze here. And then when you're ready, release your feet to the floor. We're going to make our way into Shavasana to relax for the last part of the class. So please take your time to be as comfortable as possible. So that might mean getting more clothing so that you're not chilly as you relax, or having a blanket or propping up your legs in some way. If you choose to sit, that is also an option, as long as you're comfortable and can be relatively relaxed. So after the effort of the class, we want to find our way to a state where we can rest and restore and integrate the work that we've done. So again, take your time, find comfort and ease. Use whatever props you need to be as comfortable as possible. And come back to your breath now, bringing a little more focus to your exhalation, the phase of your breath where you let go, you drop down, you release. Let go of any effort. There's nothing you need to do for the next several minutes. Softening as you sink down. In order to feel energized, we need to also allow our body to relax and rest when it needs to. Softening and sinking down. Now take a moment, if this interests you, to think about your favorite symbol or thing about spring. So is it the bright sun, the tulips that emerge, maybe it's the flowing rivers, the grass starting to grow. So whatever it is that feels energizing and springy to you, you can bring that into your mind. And then we're going to send that spring energy to all parts of the body with the breath and intention. So imagine as you breathe that you could send your spring energy, whatever it is that feels most like spring and energetic to you, whether that's a flower or it's the sunlight, sending that down to your feet as you breathe. Feeling your feet filled with that spring-like energy, waking up. And sending that energy into your ankles and calves as you breathe. Imagine whatever that energy looks or feels like for you, going down into your lower legs, into your knees. Filling your thighs with that spring-like energy. Feel your whole pelvis fill up with that spring energy, whatever that is for you. And feel that spring energy expanding into your belly and lower back. Expanding up into your chest, upper back, up into your shoulders. And sending that spring energy down your arms all the way to your fingertips. Relaxed and energized at the same time. Drawing that energy up through the neck and throat, into the head and skull, into the area around your face. Breathing that spring-like energy into every cell of your body, from head to toe to fingertips. Spring is a time of flow, of energy. Easter is our celebration of that waking up of the energy on this earth, in this hemisphere. I'll share with you a chant that honors a river in India called the Saraswati River. It's no longer in existence. But this idea of flowing, and this river flowing and bringing energy and life to all of the plants, animals, and communities that it passed through. Prabhu Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajanivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Prabhu Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajanivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Prabhu Devi Saraswati Vajebhir Vajanivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Every breath, keep filling your body with that spring energy. If it doesn't come easily to you, just notice what happens when you bring your attention there. Bring your attention to increasing that spring-like energy. And if it feels kind of not so spring-like for you, just notice that without judgment. Find any little glimmer of energy and spring inside you. Let that be enough. Gradually deepen your breath. Notice where that energy seems to spring from in your body, and from that place, add a little movement. Wherever it feels like this fountain starts to bubble up in you and invites movement, follow that impulse, follow that energy. Moving, stretching in whatever way would feel good to you. And if you're lying down, which I suspect is the case for most of you, and you're ready to come to sit, you don't have to. But if you're ready, you can roll to your side first. And with as much ease as you can find, come slowly back upright in your own time. No rush. Stay relaxing if that's where you want to be right now. Perfectly fine. And wherever you are, you can bring your hands together in front of your heart, taking a moment to thank yourself for showing up, for doing the practice today, for engaging and being present. This gift to yourself of yoga, mindfulness, presence. Namaste.